November 29, 1943, a routine bombing mission turns into a horrifying descent through fire and steel. A B-17 breaks apart mid-air, and one tail gunner is left trapped in the falling wreckage, wounded, alone, and spinning towards certain death. His will to survive defies belief. This is the extraordinary true story of courage and survival on Historical Stories. Trapped in a falling tail, the incredible survival of a B-17 gunner. On the icy morning of November 29, 1943, more than 300 American B-17 bombers took to the skies to strike Bremen, one of Nazi Germany's most fortified industrial hubs. Among the swarm of flying fortresses was one named Riki Tiki Tavi, crewed by young airmen, including 21-year-old tail gunner Jean Eugene Moran. As the bomber group neared its target, tension filled every inch of the aircraft. Only minutes from the drop zone, an urgent call echoed through the intercom. "Bandits! 12 o'clock high." The sky soon filled with twin-engine Messerschmitt Bf-110S, armed with powerful 21-centimeter air-to-air rockets, a new and terrifying weapon. The rockets slashed through the formation, followed by the roar of guns as German fighters charged. In the chaos, tail gunner Jean opened fire, fending off enemy planes as they swept past his position. From his vantage point, he spotted a second wave of Bf-109s and FW-190s, fast, lethal, and numerous. The entire sky became a storm of bullets and explosions. Tracer fire danced in every direction, and flak bursts from the ground created an eerie black fog around them. Some fortresses vanished in balls of flame, others spiraled down in silence. But Riki Tiki Tavi pressed on. As the bomber approached its target, Bombardier Donald Curtis dropped the payload. The plane rose with relief, its bomb bay finally empty. As they turned for home, the crew believed the worst had passed, but the skies had other plans. Another swarm of German fighters closed in for a second attack. The B-17 formation returned fire, lighting up the air in a deadly blaze. John kept up his defense from the tail, taking aim at anything he could. The B-17 suddenly began lagging behind the formation, an ominous sign. John radioed in, "Why are we falling back?" A faint voice answered, "We're being pushed down." Whether it was the pilot, Lieutenant Langley, or the co-pilot, no one knew. Soon, Riki Tiki Tavi was isolated. The rest of the formation faded from view. Alone, she became a magnet for German fighters. The bomber came under brutal attack. Explosions rocked the fuselage. Jean heard the cries of wounded crewmates over the intercom. His best friend, Wilbur Pee Wee Provost, the ball turret gunner, shouted frantically before going silent. Jean fired at a passing Messerschmitt, watching it spiral away smoking. A small victory in the chaos. Suddenly, a lone Bf-109 pulled alongside. John raised his guns, but the pilot remained just out of range. The two locked eyes. The German pointed at Jean, then at the ground, a signal to bail. Was he offering mercy? Jean hesitated, unsure if anyone else was left alive. But before he could respond, someone aboard Riki Tiki Tavi fired at the enemy. The moment was gone. The German plane vanished and the rest closed in. Then disaster struck. Bullets ripped through the tail. John was thrown violently. His guns jammed. He fought to repair one, even as rounds tore through his body. Both arms broken, ribs shattered, and blood filling his vision. He kept firing, refusing to quit. The next moment would haunt him forever. The sound of metal ripping apart. The tail section, his post, was being torn from the main fuselage. The force yanked John back as the bomber's body peeled away, leaving him trapped inside the falling tail. The ground rushed upward as the tail spun uncontrollably. John was pinned by G-forces, unable to move. Blood seeped into his eyes. All he could do was hold on and pray. With a thunderous crash, the tail slammed into the trees. Somehow, impossibly, John survived. He crawled out, dazed and broken. Above him, the tail section hung lodged in branches, like a forgotten relic. Every movement brought pain. He reached up and touched his skull. A gaping fracture exposed the soft tissue beneath. Moments later, voices approached. Not the angry cries of enemies, but men speaking French. John was discovered by French labourers, followed by German troops. Rather than executing him, as sometimes happened to downed airmen, they took him to a prison camp where a Serbian doctor performed emergency surgery, sealing the hole in his skull with a metal plate. Jean's physical wounds were horrifying, but the psychological toll was worse. While recovering, he endured nightmares, reliving the fall again and again. But he wasn't alone. Navigator Jesse Orison, thrown from the nose of the bomber and gravely injured, had also survived. The two were eventually reunited, the only living members of Riki Tiki Tavi's crew. Years later, Jean shared only fragments of his story, too overcome by emotion to describe much. But in 2022, a close friend, John Armbruster, published Tailspin, a book chronicling Jean's life, trauma, and heroic survival. Jean Eugene Moran endured one of the most harrowing events a man could face in war, watching his comrades die, being torn from the sky, and falling to earth trapped inside the tail of a burning bomber. Yet somehow he lived, not just to tell the tale, but to inspire future generations. Conclusion: Jean Eugene Moran's survival was nothing short of a miracle. Trapped in the falling tail of a B-17, wounded and alone, he defied death through sheer willpower. His story is a powerful tribute to courage, sacrifice, and the unbreakable spirit of a soldier. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell, because the skies have many more stories to tell. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.